Hello, I am Eri Stephanie Lama and I am an environmental and climate justice advocate from Limbe, Cameroon. I have 10 years experience, over 10 years experience working in rural communities across Cameroon. And so far I've been able to work in over 164 communities across forest communities in Cameroon with a focus on women and young people. And across these communities, I've been able to touch the lives of close to 6,000 women and 2,000 young people in schools, in communities, and across faith-based organizations. Presently, I am very focused with the Bimbia community, which is one of the last remnants of Cameroon's forest along the Mount Cameroon National Park, and it is a hot spot for a lot of biodiversity species from along the Congo Basin. What climate justice means to me is human rights. It means taking people's opinions into consideration. It means a people-centered approach to adaptation and decision-making when it comes around climate change policies. And it means the involvement of the most vulnerable people in policies, in decisions that have to do with climate change. And this is very particular to the work that we are doing in our communities, where we believe that the voices of rural people must be heard in decision-making platforms and programs. And through that, we started our Climate Leadership Academy for women, and we've been building women's capacities, rural women in particular. We've been building their capacities on climate leadership. And over the past few months, we've been able to reach over more than 100 women in climate leadership. And we are grateful because this is a program that is being supported by the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon. And with their support, we've been able to reach these women, and we are still working on it. So climate justice for us is raising the voices of the most vulnerable people and communities to the places where their voices should be heard. The documentary African Voices for Africa's Forests actually has done a great deal in my life and in the life of the communities I work with. First, we got recognition as UN Climate Change Ambassador in Egypt at COP27, where the documentary was screened across several pavilions, and I was able to speak in several panels across these pavilions. Later on, as a result of this documentary, I was invited to the UN, the first UN Global Climate Summit in Boulder, Colorado, where I spoke alongside other young leaders from all over the world, or seeing a platform of over 5,000 to 8,000 people listening to the conversations and the work we do. And after that, we were able to begin a community-based organization which brings together all the community members under the legacy of the African Voices for Africa's Forests. And through this community-based organization, we got our very first grant from the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon, which I mentioned earlier. And this grant is what we are working on, building the Climate Leadership Academy, which raises the voices of rural women and young girls across communities in Cameroon. As a result of that documentary, we also got other recognitions from climate leaders across the globe. A few days back, we were doing another documentary with a climate leader from California who found interest through the previous documentary, and we are building something on water. We've been going around our communities to tell the water story, and we are building this story with other people, young women across the globe. So we noticed also that as a result of this documentary, visibility across my national territory has improved. I've had a global visibility as well. I've got some recognitions, and I've been able to get some credit as a climate change advocate, not just in Cameroon, but outside Cameroon and also across Africa. As a climate change activist, I believe and have been working very strongly on building the capacities of rural women and creating an bridging the intergenerational gap between rural women and girls in rural communities. Because I believe that the climate crisis we are facing today, younger generations will face the brunt of it if action is not taken now. And if we can be able to impact their mothers or be able to draw out knowledge from their mothers, we'll be able to build their capacities better and pass down information to them that will help them in fighting the crisis even better. Now, these women I work with come from indigenous communities, and indigenous people have indigenous knowledge which is able to sustain them across the climate crisis. Over the years, we've noticed that they have had ways to adapt to crises that have been occurring even before we started voicing it out. They've been able to manage their water resources, they've been able to manage their forests, they've been able to manage their air, they've been able to manage their seasonal calendars with changing weather patterns, they've been able to manage their food security across different seasons and across different times. And climate knowledge will only increase if we are able to draw from what they originally have, and if we are able to build our capacities based on traditional indigenous knowledge. When we neglect traditional indigenous knowledge, we are saying that these people who hold this knowledge are not important in the society. But that is not true, because these are the pioneers of climate adaptation techniques, and these are the pioneers of whatever information we need to be able to push the climate agenda and to be able to solve the climate crisis that we are facing today. If we continue neglecting indigenous knowledge, we will be missing out in the most important aspects of climate adaptation, and we will be missing out in the most important aspects of environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability cannot be separated from indigenous knowledge, and that is why education, climate education, is a key concept when it comes to indigenous knowledge. By passing down knowledge from older generations to younger generations, we are passing down information that is important to the building of capacities that will help in shaping the best policies, that will help in shaping the best standards for our environment in the future. So we can't overcome our indigenous traditional practices with modernization. We must be able to put them hand in hand. Innovation and traditional knowledge can only go hand in hand to be able to make our economies sustainable, to be able to make our environments sustainable, and to be able to protect the generations that are yet unborn and keep our forests important. Cameroon is part of the Congo Basin forest, and Cameroon has a lot of indigenous communities, and that is why till today we keep protecting the voices of indigenous people, because we know that they are the voices of the masses and are the voices for change.